Hmm.
FIghtHype.com here with my man, former world champion Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie, bro, when am I going to be able to say Hall of Famer Paulie Malignaggi?
I don't know about that, man, but
You don't think so?
I've been I mean, you know what? I think that the Hall of Fame was something that was really, really important to me when I was pushing myself during my career. Um, and I think that it's something that it should motivate anybody at the beginning of their career to want to have that kind of career, just so they can get the maximum best out of their ability and their desire. So that way, even if you don't make it, you still accomplish a lot. I think you have to set very high goals, have a very high standard. And this way, just in case you don't accomplish everything, and there have to be multiple goals, mind you, then in case you don't accomplish everything, you'll still accomplish enough to, be a success in life. And I think that's very important. I don't know if I'll get into the Hall of Fame, but as I've gotten older, I also, you know, people could masquerade this and say that he's just not as important to him because he's not going to get in. I mean, that's a valid opinion, I think, but I also don't look at the Hall of Fame as a I think, first of all, Hall of Fame weekend is fun. I'll say that, because a lot of fans get to come there. I've been there several times. You mingle with everybody in the business, and it's a fun time. You're mingling with everybody in the business without thinking about business. Every other fight time you're at a big fight, there's business going on. So you're intermingling. Yeah, it can be fun, but there's still an element of business going on. Well, Hall of Fame weekend is everybody in the business getting together, intermingling with fans as well, more so than even at the event, more so than even at events, at fights. And it's all fun. There's no stress as far as the businesses being concerned. It's literally just fun. You're congratulating people who got in. There's ex alumni there who have been in before, and there's guys who are hoping to get in the future. So I will say it's fun as far as the mingling aspect of because I like being around people. I'm a social person, so I do. I don't have a lot of friends because I keep a small circle, but I do like events and people and just getting to talk to people and doing that kind of stuff. So I will say first and foremost, I don't want people to get the wrong idea. I think Hall of Fame weekend is fun, but as I also look at this, I look at it this way from the other side of it to where it becomes less important to me. I've seen a lot of very dishonest people getting into the Hall of Fame as far as on the non-boxing element of it. Um, some bad people, some people I wouldn't consider very good people. Um, I'm a person who's still happy for people. If it means that something to them, it probably means more to them than it does to me at this point. But also the PED problem that I've got a pretty good grasp on in the last 25 years in boxing. And I can only say the last 25 years because but prior to that, I wasn't involved in boxing. Um, is guys that were guys that have just failed drug tests. And so you don't even have to wonder about some of them. Some of them have actually failed, and some of them have been, even if not failed, have been caught blatantly. Get in on the first ballot. There's no standard there at all. So I think things like that, it becomes less important to me. So, it's not really something that I worry about. I have had these smaller Hall of Fame groups have inducted me. I think it's the New York, I think it's New York Hall of Fame. They inducted me. The World Hall of Fame, which is in California, Boxing Hall of Fame, they inducted me this year. Um, I I wasn't even able to go to the one in New York when I got inducted. I just got busy. Like I said, it's not really the most important thing, and I'm not trying to downplay it. It's like it's for some people it means more than others. I will do my best to get to the one that they inducted me in California in April. But if it coincides with things I'm busy with, then it's gonna wind up like happened when I went to New York when I was inducted in New York where I didn't get to go. I wasn't able to go. And I know that can seem like it's not appreciated. I'm not being appreciative and all that, but life happens, bro. So
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot more important things for me than things like that, than personal accolades at this point. But yeah. So it really, you know, I congratulate anybody who gets in, and I'm happy for anybody who gets in. And I think it means a lot more to some people than it means to others. And for those that it means a lot to, I hope they do get in or are able to get in. And the ones that it means a lot to and have gotten in, I am happy for them, because I feel like, wishing good things on people is a good thing. But I also think that the Boxing Hall of Fame is a bit overrated when you compare it to other sports Hall of Fames where the standard is a bit more pristine. I'm not gonna say anything is perfect, but it's a bit more pristine. There's a bit of a higher standard left.
Yeah, no. I definitely agree with that. Got to wonder about some of the people that they do put in, and plus, I know some of the people that do the voting. I actually don't vote. If I did vote, you'd have my vote. But some of the
But
people
that's
that
the thing. Like that's the thing. It's like I also wouldn't want people voting just because they like somebody personally. I've personally seen guys who don't get in the Hall of Fame and they go like every year trying to like basically like just cozy up to the voting committee and whatnot. Bro, I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like that's the last thing I would ever do. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
so like there are people and some guys they've after doing it for like decades I've seen they got in. It's and I'm hey if that means that much to you I am happy for you. Because even if you're on a level where you may or may not get in, that means you've still accomplished enough. Although, because otherwise, it wouldn't even be a question that you wouldn't get in, right? You wouldn't even have that conversation. The fact that you can even do that is there's still a certain level of respect has to be given to you, regardless, because that means you accomplished enough to at least merit some consideration. And some guys don't get it. They'll cozy up and don't get in. Either way, even those guys have accomplished a lot. So it's a tough sport. It's a tough business. It's a tough sport. And you got to respect the ones that went through it and went through it for the long haul.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Well, anyway, let's jump into the interview, bro. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
on a Hall of Fame tangent, but obviously people are gonna see the video. They see you chilling, lounging after
Mhm.
a hard night of work last night. You were
Yeah.
at the ProBox card last night. How'd that
Mhm.
go? I mean, I think there were a
I
couple
think,
knockdowns, a couple explosive
yeah,
hits.
I went well. I think, we're gonna go away from our Wednesday night fight series this year. We're gonna have, I think, one Wednesday night fight, one more Wednesday night fight show on February the 19th. But otherwise, we're gonna move on to Saturday night. It could be good, it could be bad. We're gonna do our best. At least my boss said, Gary Jonas wants to do our best to not go into the main event of another big network main event that could be the same night. So we'll do our best to do that, and not kind of collide with that. But we're gonna be going more on Saturday nights now. This one was a Friday, but we're gonna be doing more Saturday nights now. I think we have February the 8th is our next one. That might be a Friday as well, or that might be a Saturday. I'm not sure. And then we'll have February 19th, which is a Wednesday, and then after that, that's it. It'll be all Saturdays. So I think that's gonna change a little bit on the schedule at least. But we're growing. I think we're the level of matchups that we make. We've always got pretty big underdogs that win. I don't even know why the odds makers bother to make big underdogs on our cards. If you know a fight is happening on our show, this probably shouldn't be a big underdog. Because we make these fights in with the possibility that both guys could win in mind. And obviously, yes, sometimes there's a guy who stands out to you like, okay, he should win. But really, if you look at a lot of our matchups, a lot of our cards, they are. I sincerely, and not just I work here. I sincerely believe we have the best cards, especially for this level where it's that medium range level where it's like contenders trying to get to high level and they're not at high level yet, or they're guys who've been to high level and have come back down. Sort of like, and I like to compare it to the old Friday Night Fights, ESPN, the old Showbox series, the old USA Tuesday Night Fight series, things like that. I think that we are even a little bit higher level than that because a lot of times on those networks, you saw guys with good records colliding, but there was an angle to the other side. Like there was a clear B side to where maybe one guy who had a good record had earned it maybe against not such glossy opposition. So you could see one guy was clearly going to be favored, even if both on paper even if it was sellable on paper. Our cards, if you look at the way these guys earn their records, they both got good records, but then they're both if you look at you typically you box rec these guys, a lot of these guys they've both got a standard to their record as well. So that means even the side who you might look at the B side is not really a B side. Like they know how to win fights. And you see that on those results. You see those kind of results on ProBox TV all the time. You saw it last night. I can't say I can brag about that fight last night because typically we pride ourselves on a lot of action. The big upset that we had last night was Jeremiah Milton getting beat by this guy, this heavyweight, right? And actually, the fight was a little bit of a dud, if I'm going to be honest with you. So it was probably only exciting if you bet the underdog. But typically, our underdogs win at times when they do win in exciting fashion, you know? And bro, I can remember last year at a certain point there was at least one underdog winning on every card. I mean, that's how, and it was like that, man. You know, so and you know we have betting sponsors on ProBox TV, so you see the odds and you can see the odds before the matchup. You know, and honestly, sometimes I look at these big. There's a big underdog, and I'll be like, bro, I don't even know why they would bother to make somebody such a big underdog. You know, it's like there's still a chance that upsets being pulled off on this card on these cards, and you've seen plenty of them. You know. So really enjoyable to see. Well, and like I said, the comparison is to the old Friday night fights, the old Tuesday night fights, the old Showbox. You typically knew who was going to win. It was just a matter of how were they going to win. Were they going to struggle with this guy that may have been a step up? Were they not? It wasn't like, oh, are they going to win? For the most part, don't get me wrong, you still have some of that here on ProBox, but for the most part, it's literally like, oh, are you going to win or not? You know, because you could get beat here. You know, but I feel like it brings an element of shock value and an element of excitement, and also these guys aren't making a lot of money yet. This is the mid range. This is not the championship range. So they're not going to be, but they are close enough at mid range. They're close enough to championship range that they can taste it now. So they're hungrier than they're ever going to be, you know? So matching guys like this up against one another, this is what it's all about, you know? This is why back in the day at championship level, fights were so good, because you still had championship fighters that were fighting each other at a time when they were hungry, not letting it marinate for 10 years. And then both guys are not hungry anymore. They're just fighting and putting the money together, you know? I feel like championship should have that, and it's happening a little bit with the Saudis. The Turki Alalshikh now, he's starting to make fights that are more evenly matched with guys more in their primes than before. But also, we're trying to do our best to do that here, and we're trying to grow the brand as well. You know, and the more subscribers we get, I tell everybody to download the app as well. Don't just subscribe on YouTube. Download the app right now; it's free. In order to get more budget into our network, in order for even better fighters and more expensive fighters, better fights, it's going to come down to how much we generate. If we keep growing, we'll be able to continue to give better and better fights. I think our standard is pretty good, but I think we'll give better and better fights as we keep growing. We're thinking about maybe entering the championship fray here and there for a card, and we may do like a $2.99 pay-per-view or a $3.99 pay-per-view for that, just because we got to be able to pay these guys. You know what I mean? Because you can't afford that kind of level, but we don't want to make the app expensive either, to where it's, you know, certain, when you see apps, they just become permanently expensive. We're also thinking about not doing that, to where maybe if we do a championship card, we'll do like a $2.99 each championship card, and see if enough buyers subscribe so that we can continue to do that. You know, it's a little bit of trial and error right now, but we're definitely trying to grow, and I think we have grown. And remember, we also, it's a channel, so we have talk shows and all this other stuff. Also, we're not a promoter. People think we're a promoter. Remember, HBO and Showtime used to sign fighters. Okay, they had their own promoter, but they used to sign fighters. We try to do that as well, so we can bring guys back. Because, you know, a lot of times what was happening early on in ProBox TV, guys would look good on the network, a promoter would grab them, and then we couldn't get them back anymore. You know, so what we try to do now is, you know, some of the fighters we try to sign for multiple fight deals, just so we can keep bringing them back to the network. But it is as a network, it is not as a promoter. So just like it's as a network, it's not as a promoter. The incentive is not necessarily to not get you beat, bro. The incentive is to make good fights. And yeah, if you win, it's great. You get the platform here, but the incentive is to make the best fights possible. And if we like you, we give you a multiple fight deal with the network, but all those fights are going to be tough. It's just, you know, you'll be brought back, and it's consistency. And for guys who don't have the protection of a major promoter, you know, but they can fight, you know, which is a lot of fighters, mind you. I think the majority of guys that can fight in the business don't get signed to those major promoters, because those major promoters have like a really, really fine line they play. You know what I mean? So they have a lot of great fighters, but there's a lot of really very, very good fighters that don't get signed to these guys. So, and they're kind of fall into our talent pool, so to speak, that we are able to grab and match and put into matches and stuff. And so sometimes we sign them for multiple fights, and we can keep bringing them back, you know. And we've seen have some good results. You know, we had Angelo Leo win a world championship, you know, going after winning on ProBox TV. We got the kid fighting in a couple of weeks. He's actually fighting an undefeated guy, Brian Acosta. The kid, Ramon Cardenas. He's fighting Brian Acosta in a couple of weeks. Cardenas, to me, the times I've seen him, looks like he could win a world championship. To me, he looks very, very good. We have Nicholas Floss, who I would bet all kinds of farmland right now would knock out Mario Barrios right now.
Wow.
Granted, that's not saying a lot because Mario Barrios is probably one of the weaker world champions I've ever seen in the welterweight division. But nonetheless,
Champion.
it's not a knock on him. I mean, the performances speak for themselves. But as a person, it's not a knock on him. It's a knock on him as a fighter. But the performance speaks for themselves. But I think Flaz has shown tremendous ability and excitement value. So I'm excited to be here. Sometimes people talk to me or they'll bring up something like, "Oh, Paulie, it's a shame you're not working in the business." I'm like, bro, I am working in the business. It's like it's a shame you guys don't know what ProBox TV is, because people that obviously say that think like they don't know about ProBox TV. And to me, a boxing fan doesn't know about ProBox TV. I feel like they're truly missing out. If you're a real boxing fan, if you're a true boxing fan, if you're a casual, I get it. It might be a whole lot of boxing we do here because we do fights and we do talk shows. So it might be a little bit too much. But if you're a hardcore boxing fan, I don't see how you would not love ProBox TV, because there's just something for everybody. We have live events and we have daily podcast talk shows that we just discuss all things boxing and whatnot. We have we're going to be doing a boxing scene talk show where we're going to be talking about the boxing scene headlines, and then we're going to do ProBox TV talk shows where we sort of promote our own cards coming up and talk about the fighters that are going to be on the cards, just so people can get a little bit of background on these matchups. Because I know the ones that religiously watch us, they know our fights are good. But if you can get some background on some fighters, hey, it's even better. I'm really, really excited about it, and that's what it's been at, man. So that's why I'm here. Last night was our opening show of 2025. I felt like Darrell Valsaint and Najee Lopez are two really good prospects that have been shown on ProBox several times, and each time they really, really excel. And they've, I mean, yesterday was a step up in name for Najee Lopez. I feel like Najee has fought guys who were prospects and just as hungry as him, and he's been in tough fights. But I feel like maybe you don't get the kind of credit you deserve when you do that all the time, because people don't know who those opponents are, even though they're tough and they're hungry and they got good records when you fight them. But guys who, they may be a little bit on the faded side of veteran contender status, like an Lennon Castillo, who Najee fought last night, sometimes that'll get you more credibility if you beat a guy like that looking good, because people recognize Lennon Castillo.
Right.
Even though, in my opinion, I've seen Najee have tougher fights against other fighters that people might not recognize. And I feel like those guys at this point were tougher for Najee to deal with. But also, it shows the maturity process of Najee. I loved what I saw last night, and Darrell Valsaint has been very, very impressive. And he's in a weight class that's super tough. I mean, for me, the 154-pound division might be the deepest division in boxing. And Darrell Valsaint, for me, is a major hot prospect. And Najee Lopez is a major hot prospect in the light heavyweight division, especially with recent struggles by Khalil Cohen, Ben Whitaker, who were probably more known light heavyweight prospects. I think Najee Lopez has just blown right by them with yesterday's performance, especially with their recent struggles. Najee does not struggle. Najee, he's been down. Sometimes he gets hit. Okay, but he is flying. He's offensively adept. He's getting more intelligent with his boxing, and I'm really excited to continue to watch guys like this and others on ProBox TV and watch these matchups. And bro, you want to know the sleeper matchup we got in 2 weeks? Salcedo and Acosta is a great main event. Salcedo is Ramon says not Cardenas, sorry, Cardenas and Cardenas and Acosta is a great main event. Listen, it's a solid main event. Acosta's undefeated, and Cardenas is more battle tested, and I think he could be a world champion. But Acosta's undefeated, and he's going to bring that to the table, right? But I think the sleeper matchup is Lester Martinez against Joshan James. You want a sleeper matchup? Joshan James, the guy who's upset several people already, keeps getting disrespected by getting put on the B side, and nobody gives him a deal, even though he's upset several guys, and he's also got 2 draws on his record where he was robbed when he was the B side. Okay, so he's still undefeated. Makes guys look bad, really can fight. And Lester Martinez is an explosive fighter who is a hard puncher and knows how to. And for me, could be one of the more exciting fighters in the sport if he's able to continue to rise to world class level. We put these guys head to head right now, bro. You know what I mean? Like so I think the sleeper great fight on February 8th on our card is the co-main event. Which is going to be Lester against Joshan James. We'll see.
Yeah. You mentioned the bigger promoters, right? PBC. Well, PBC is not even a promoter, but you know what I mean. PBC, Top Rank,
Yeah.
Golden Boy. Seems like they've kind of scaled down over the past year or so, they're not quite putting on as many events. So how important is it for, guys like you, ProBox TV, some of the other ones, I think Red Owl, I think is one, Overtime Boxing. How important is it for you guys to be putting on these fights and putting on these cards just to keep boxing, alive in America?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. I've actually worked one of those Red Owl cards, and they're typically scheduled for once every, I think the first Friday, first weekend of the month. So I think it's important to have a set schedule, kind of like the old Friday night fights used to, the old Tuesday night fights used to, because championship level, it gets promoted more. So when you know a championship fight is coming, 2 months before, you know the matchup, you're ready for it, you're built up for it as a boxing fan, everything about it. But these kind of cards, these mid-range cards, like the Red Owl Boxing, like the OT, what is it, OTB or OTC?
OTX, I think. OTX.
OTX, and then Pro Box. I think you need a set schedule to where because not every the fighters aren't as known yet. So you're just gonna follow the series. We're like a soap opera. You kind of follow the series, and you know that every time we're on, we're gonna give you the best possible matchups at this level, and the guys are gonna know how to fight. I think that's how Friday Night Fights really existed. If you remember correctly, that's how Tuesday Night Fights existed. Yeah, okay. A week before, you'd find out next week's matchup. Oh man, that's a great matchup.
Right.
So you find out one matchup at a time. And then you're like, oh, that's a cool matchup. While at championship level, you find out 3 months before, 2 months before, which is, of course, par for the course. Most people know those guys, So you got to promote those. You got to generate millions of dollars for those fights, right? So I think falling in love with the series is important because the series then automatically breeds talent, And I think that's where the importance comes in here for what I do at ProBox TV, what we do here at ProBox TV, and also those Red Owl and OTX shows.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned Turkey and some of the things he's doing. What do you think about the current state of boxing with Turkey coming in, the Riyadh season takeover, some of those fights that maybe weren't getting made or starting to get made, or some of those fights
think,
that would be here are now going over there?
Ben, it's pros and cons, right? I mean, think about it. There's no really a black or gray, black or white area. It's more gray all the time when you think about these things, right? So there's a lot of pros about Turki Alalshikh. He makes some great matchups that were not getting made. And you get excited about the fact that they get made. Some people say, okay, it should be made in better atmospheres because in Saudi there's no atmosphere. I get it. Believe me, I follow soccer. I follow football, as our British friends like to call it. And a lot of the Saudis are also buying a lot of the European soccer tournaments. Like the Italian Super Cup, for example, was played in Saudi. There's no atmosphere. I get it, and I see the difference in comparison to when those games are being played in Italy, in a stadium in Italy, as opposed to when it's played. I get it. But I also get that there's a business sense of it, and unlike soccer, where those tournaments are going to happen anyway, I feel like soccer is more to complain about than boxing because those tournaments, like for example, what I just mentioned, the Italian Super Cup, that happens every year anyway. Right. It's just the fact that the Saudis bought it. It just throws more money into the owners' pockets, the owners of the soccer team's pockets. But in boxing, these matches weren't getting made. So it's a little bit different because to do cross-promotional events at a high championship level, they weren't getting made. So I think there's more to appreciate with the Saudis getting involved in boxing than there is in a game in something like soccer, for example, where those things are going to happen anyway. They're just trying to buy the events for Saudi Arabia. So it kills an atmosphere for something that was already going to happen in a better atmosphere. While in boxing, yeah, you get less atmosphere, but that fight might have not happened at all unless for the Saudis, right? So from that perspective, I get it. It's a positive. But then there's also cons, of course. Are you overpaying for the market? Are you in this for the long haul? Because if you're not in this for the long haul, you just ruin the market because fighters barely wanted to fight each other to begin with. Now they're fighting each other for being overpaid for it, and they're fighting each other. Are you going to continue to do that and keep the market steady? And then are you going to allow everybody to play just because they don't kiss your ass? Because this is a sport, it's not staged. So if it's a sport, it's not staged, everybody gets in. I say this only because I now Tim Tszyu's obviously been knocked off by Muratalla, but Tim Tszyu all of a sudden fell out of grace before all that happened with the Sheik because he basically only said, "Hey, I'd like you to deal with my team, and we can work something out." Tim didn't say, "Hey, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not dealing with it." He just said, "No, I don't speak for myself. I have a team that represents me." These are the way things should be honored sometimes. I mean, not sometimes, it's the way it's honored. If you're signed to something, there is a way things work. Right. I'll give you an example. Because I think this is all new to that part of the world, so they're still trying to get used to the dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I remember when I was a world champion that had a WBA welterweight title, and I got an offer from Saudi Arabia back in the day when the Saudi offers weren't coming, and they wanted to host my title defense against the guy that was my number one contender at the time. It was Diego Chavez. You remember Diego Chavez, if you remember?
Yep.
Okay, Diego Chavez was my number one contender when I won the WBA welterweight title. And the Saudis reached out to my team and they wanted to make this stages. And they were going to pay me, seven-figure money to fight Diego Chavez, who at the time was unknown,
Right.
So I was like, oh, interesting, could be first defense, whatever, and I let my promoter know all this other stuff. To make a long story short, there's a lot of things that have the I's have to be dotted and T's have to be crossed. And it's not a blame on the Saudis. It's just, they're not used to doing it this way. So there's a way the West works and the way the East works, right? Or the way even the Middle East works. Basically, the deal was, okay, show us that this money exists. We know you have it, obviously, you're Saudis, but show us that you're organized enough to do it. This money has to be in this escrow account by this date.
Right.
Show us the venue you plan to put us in. How the date? Do you have a date? Do you have basically logistical things? That you have that so we can commence negotiating properly? Mm-hmm. And the deadline came and went. There was no money in the escrow account. So it wasn't like they didn't have it. It was just they weren't organized enough, and the deadline wasn't important to them enough to say, "Oh, make sure I give you that deadline so you take me seriously." In their mind, they said you should take us seriously anyway, and I get that. But there's a different mentality in the West. We run on like a well-oiled machine in the West. So in that regard, I'm only using that example because when fighters are signed to promoters or managers, or even broadcasters, are signed to a network, or you have a contract. Those things have to be honored. So I can't just step out of my role and say, okay, forget this contract. I'm going to go come talk to you. So for some guys, especially that have those contracts, the owners of those contracts, they want you to call them. They want you to talk to you, and it's not a disrespect to you. It's not a disrespect to the Saudis, and if you don't talk to them, then they may feel disrespected. And I feel like that may have happened with Tim Tszju's team. But all of a sudden, what happened? He didn't want Tim Tszju. But that didn't make Tim Tszju not a world-class fighter at the time, Like, you shouldn't omit somebody just because they're not kissing your behind, so to speak. Like, if you want to run a sport, then it has to be a sport. And in a sport, you can't stage stuff. You can't have, if you're gonna run it. If you want to be a fan, it's a different. Fan, okay, you can be a fan, you're gonna have your preferences, all this other stuff. But if you're gonna run a sport in a genuine way that a sport should be run, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say all sports don't have politics, they do, but I just feel like they shouldn't, right? Then, you have to run it in a way where the sport itself blossoms and brings up its own talent. And I know what the thing is, the Saudis have enough money to where they don't have to play politics. They could literally just make all the fights. And bro, I don't care if you win or you win. I don't have my favorites. Just make the fights. I want to see the best fights possible, the best matchups. Make everybody fight each other and see. And so why would you want to have favorites? Why would you want to play politics when you have the money to actually eliminate all the politics? That's more so the frustration there, And then what happens if you bring everybody else in? You can eliminate people like Canelo who are brazenly after 200 million to go fight kitchen workers, So then you can eliminate him. You don't want to fight the toughest guy, for the way you're supposed to be. Like when Canelo was trying to avoid Benavidez, and he was saying, "Oh, you got to give me 200 million to fight Benavidez," who obviously was the big threat, right? You eliminate guys like that because all of a sudden, okay, everybody can play except you. Now we'll see where you go. You know what? He may still sell because I think Canelo fans are up his ass off. Where if he fights the guy who pumped my gas across the street, he'll probably still sell 1 million pay-per-views because his fans are that up his ass. But for the most part, people that big don't exist. So you can actually have a major playing stage here where you don't have to play the politics. And I feel like ProBox TV strives to do that at the middle level. I feel like Turki Alalshikh and the Saudis can do that at the highest level. But when you want to play the I'm a fan game and then also run the sport, it's tough, man. It's tough to, and this is not criticism as hating. This is constructive criticism. I think when I've said negative stuff about the Saudis, I feel like because it's there's potential to be even better. You don't have to cozy up to a promoter. You can do business with a promoter, but you don't have to cozy up to one or two promoters. You can deal with all the promoters. You can deal. You are the shot caller as long as you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? But if you just came into it to be a fan, then yeah, there's some threatening situations there because what happens? Now you're just trying to recycle the same old names you because you like stars and the guys up and coming may not be so many stars. How do you keep the sport going? Okay, I know they like Virgil Ortiz and he's a young phenom, but for the most part, you like to play with stars who are getting up there in age already because they're bona fide stars. It's a little bit of a fanboying it, right? So those guys ain't gonna be around forever or much longer. Do you have the capabilities to keep the wheel turning, to make the best fights possible with the youth now coming up the ladder and help hold that standard? Because to run a sport is is not easy, man. You know what I mean? Especially to run a sport when you have that kind of money and you can't avoid the politics. I feel like there's a more responsibility on your hands, and is the right thing going to be done? That's why in our smaller box here at ProBox TV, I feel like we've been trying to do that at that mid-range level right now, and I feel like we've been doing a good job. We really don't have our preferences, man. You know what I mean? Like I love the fact that I just go into work and these fights happen, bro, and it's like whatever. You know what I mean? I can remember being at Showtime and getting scolded by the upper echelon because the upper hierarchy of the network because Wilder clearly lost the fight against Tyson Fury, and they gave it a draw just because he had two knockdowns, and all Wilder's fanboys were fanboying it because he had two knockdowns. That Wilder got robbed. The guy lost every second of the fighting except the knockdown moments. He even lost round 12 except for the fact that he almost knocked out Fury. I mean, and I'll be blunt with you, bro. It was just because they were black and he was black. There's literally only if Wilder was a white guy, he would have had no support in the first fight. It was just the racial culture just pushing Wilder in that fight because he was fighting the white guy. Or if two black guys were fighting in that fight, there wouldn't have been any sympathy for Wilder there because Fury got robbed in the first fight, right? But what I'm saying is, I had to go deal with that backlash at the time, And I felt like that was the beginning of the end for me at Showtime. That wasn't the end for me right there, but I felt like that was sort of the beginning of the end for me right there because I felt like they were
because Wilder was considered like the
yeah,
Showtime
because
fighter.
they wanted to keep Wilder and all that other stuff, and then PBC had also signed the Fox deal, and then I remember that Showtime wanted to play to the hierarchy at Showtime was trying to play to the broadcasters on Showtime, which was me and the rest of the guys. They were saying, "Don't worry, we're not going to be the B team to Fox. We're going to get just as many great fights," and then they proceeded to make us the B team, and they knew that. You know what I mean? Like so I felt like also as grateful as I am for having been able to work at Showtime, I felt like those same guys that did hire me also killed Showtime Boxing because they themselves made that deal knowing what they were doing. You know what I mean? Which was that PBC knew they were going to go and make Fox the upper network on there and give us give us a triple A league of fights and give them the major league of fights after we had done such a great job, mind you, at Showtime. Remember, there were some years before that we had done a great job making the best fights. We were the premier network in boxing in the United States of America. And so to just kill that, to just do that, that was frustrating, man. You know what I mean? So the Fox deal was coming, and I saw what the hierarchy was trying to do. They were trying not to lose Wilder to the Fox deal as well, because now they knew the deal that they signed that they were dealing with. You have an exclusive deal with PBC, but PBC is going to kick you in your ass and make you the AAA. So now you're hoping that they throw you a couple of bones because you promised us they would throw us a lot of bones. They didn't throw us anything. I mean, of course. So they also blame me for Wilder going to Fox as well. You know what I'm saying? And that was so that was I think he knocked out Brazil on Showtime after that, but then the second Fury fight was at Fox, for example. So they were already like but again, I like the fact that there's no politics here, and I feel like we at ProBox TV don't need to play the politics, and somebody like Turki Alalshikh, who's got so much money and has the power to just let the sport run. Let it run, bro. Let the horses go, bro. Let them go. You know what I mean? Like, let those stallions fly. You know what I mean? Like, they can really, really make boxing amazing. You know what I mean? If you just let the sport go, you make boxing amazing. Here at our level at ProBox TV, that's what we're trying to do. Anybody who's been watching ProBox TV has seen the amazing cards we've put on. You know what I mean? And they're consistent. Like I said, there's a lot of upsets here. They're consistent. The great fights. We strive to make the best possible matchups. You can keep doing that if you don't play politics. So that was that's something that needs to be addressed because you know the Saudi cards can be very good. I personally am not one of those that minds if there's not a great atmosphere. Because if you remember, Mike Tyson was doing that in the late 80s. He's going to Tokyo. He knocked out Tony Tubbs in Tokyo, and he lost to Buster Douglas in Tokyo. There was no atmosphere then either, right? But hey, bro, I don't remember anybody complaining about Mike Tyson going to Tokyo. I personally don't remember. You know what I mean? Like, especially he wasn't on pay per view. I don't think the Tubbs fight was on pay per view, and the Douglas fight wasn't on pay per view for sure. Because I'm old enough to remember that. So you know what, bro? These Saudi cards, they're some of them are just the zone cards, right? Or they're low or the lower paying pay per view. So it's the same thing. Why are we changing our standards? So that I don't mind. But I do think that the politics needs to be, sort of pushed to the side. You don't need to have the politics, bro. You don't need to manufacture a star. You don't need to make Gervonta Davis against the guy who pumps my gas, and just because you need him to keep manufacture this star continuously. Like Gervonta's a very good fighter. I criticize the matchups not because I don't like Gervonta Davis, because I feel like he's so good that I want to see him against somebody like him. Why should I have to watch? Why, if I know that a python is a dangerous animal, and I got to see a python take on an alligator, I'll say, okay, but why do I got to watch a python taking on a turkey or a rooster or a chicken? Why do I got to watch that? I already know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? That's a slaughter, right? That's a slaughter. But you know what? You got to give it a Nile River crocodile or alligator, and when I confuse alligators and crocodiles, but whatever. Give it a Nile River alligator and a python. All right, bro. You got me interested. You're like, all right, bro. Let's see who wins this. You know what I mean? They fight. Obviously we're not fighting to the death in boxing, but nonetheless, intrigue me. The Gervonta Davis fight with Lamont Roach. Lamont's a good fighter. He's a perennial contender. He's been a contender for his whole career. I think he's been pro for about a decade. I can remember him all the way back in his Golden Boy days. Was solid perennial contender. Always came up just a little short, and then finally got over the hump and won his world championship. That's great for him. But that doesn't mean now you put him up in the next weight class against a bona fide star, of pay-per-view star, and you make him the opponent. Like, that's not how you're supposed to do that, bro. You know what I mean? So that's why when I hear guys like Davis talk about they want to retire because they're not motivated anymore, and bro, that's just because they overpaid you. You know what I mean? And again, I don't like to bring up money, account other people's money, but I'm bringing it up only because that's part of the reason he said that. Like, he's like, I made my money, this and that, and I won't. Bro, what did you accomplish though? Just because it's funny because people are so stupid today that they think just because somebody makes money, it automatically merits that they're successful now. That's it. You're a success. And I get it. You can't be poor and be successful because then it's not a good look. But money is not the be all end all for success, even though people are brainwashed to think so. So they throw you a bunch of money, but you don't have a single Hall of Famer on your resume. Not one. And you're talking about you retiring because you just accomplished it all. Dude, that's crazy to me. Wild to me. That's wild to me.
Do you think that?
If I was in Gervonta Davis's weight class in my career, and I had the exact opposition Gervonta Davis had, I wouldn't have as many knockouts, but I'd be undefeated. I wouldn't have as many knockouts, right? And that's the resume we're talking about. We've just turned into a pay-per-view star. Now, could it be because of knockouts? Possibly. I'm not hating on that. Can legitimately punch, but he's got so much ability. Why can't I see him against somebody like him so that I can see, does he have character behind the ability? Or is he spineless? Does he quit? Why can't I see him? Because he's at the level now where I should be able to know that. Right. That's what makes them special. That's what made Ray Leonard special. He went through the difficulty of fighting at Tommy Hearns. Even Floyd Mayweather, listen, he's dominant. He took on the guy that everybody thought he was going to beat him, Diego Corrales. But then remember, he struggled against Castillo. And what did he do? He went right back after him again. You know what? And beat him in a second fight that if you watch that fight closely, it's not easy even in the second fight, but he made sure he spreads the gap enough for you to know, you know what? I'm better than this guy. You know what I mean? But we got to see the character. You showed it to me. And I got to see you, struggle in the fight, stress in the fight. But I saw you overcome it and look good doing it. Now it makes me more of a fan. You know what I mean? Like, I can't get into this groupie fanboy thing today where you just want to watch. To go back to the example I used, you just want to watch the python kill the chicken. Like, and not to say that the other professional fighters should be called a chicken, but it's just like they don't belong in the same ring yet. Lamont Roach, if he would have made 4 or 5 title defenses at 130 pounds, okay, you know what? Now you're selling me a little bit. Okay, he got 4 or 5 title defenses at 130 pounds, and now he's going to go up to the lightweight division, and Gervonta's going to fight him. You know what? and he looked good in those 4 or 5 title defenses at the same time before he fights Gervonta, now you're like, you know what? Oh man, now I'm curious. But no, what are you doing? You're doing the same thing you did against Alex Garcia. You're just recycling the same thing. As a matter of fact, it's the same champion, WBA 130-pound champion. You did it all over again. As a matter of fact, who did Lamont beat for the titles? Alex Garcia, because Alex Garcia went back to 130, still had the same belt. So you're just recycling the same move over and over again. We're not even progressing. So you're killing the sport to line your pockets. And the people that run your business are killing the sport to line your pockets. I defend the sport, guys. I defend the sport, and so I want the best matchups possible. You're not going to entertain me with these kind of B level matchups just because they're called pay-per-views and you say you masquerade them as something special. You know,
Do you think
getting to the
that
point where somebody's undercards are better than the main events.
right?
You know, and that's how you have to sell it. You have to sell to the pure boxing fans. You have to sell a good undercard because the main event is not good. Gervonta Davis fans, he's got a lot of fans, but they're more so hip hopper fans, right? They're not really like hardcore boxing fans. You're gonna sell those on the main event, and because they don't know any better anyway, they just want to see Gervonta win. So you can put him against anybody and he'll win, right? And just any old lower level opponent he'll win. But the boxing fans, you got to intrigue them, right? So you need to make a good undercard. That's why that's why I also believe you're seeing better undercards. Remember back in the day, people complained about it was main event heavy, and the undercards weren't so good. They were sleeper undercards. In the last 20 years, 15, 20 years, right? Remember those? I've seen some of those sleeper undercards.
Yep.
Now people make like it's progress. Oh, we got better undercards. Yeah, because your main event sucks, dude. That's why you got better undercards. That you didn't make any progress. You just flipped the roles.
Right.
That's not progress, bro. When I was talking about when we were wanting better pay-per-view undercards, we didn't want to diminish the level of the main event. We wanted better pay-per-view undercards, and we still wanted a main event that was worthwhile. That was worth your pay-per-view dollars. Whatever, man. It's the ongoing story. I could rant forever on
it. Do you think that? I mean, Gervonta is making the money that he's making because he's generating money, right? I mean, obviously
yes,
he must.
But remember, we are in an era where you have the internet, you have TV, you have everything, and Gervonta's got swag. Again, I don't criticize the man. I don't criticize the man. I criticize the boxer. I don't even know the man very well. I mean, I remember him coming up and talking to him. He's a good kid. I don't know. I don't know him what he's going into, but I can remember he's a good kid. Nobody's perfect, of course. Don't know. I don't want anybody to judge me like, oh, you did this and this, but I'm not God. But he's a good kid. Okay, from what I remember. But you can generate a star. You can manufacture with today's weapons, as far as technological weapons. You can manufacture my Jordans into stars, like my Jordan, my left sneaker can become a star. And with today, if you just push it, right? So today I feel like people just get chosen. Remember when I fought Broner, he was already on the pound for pound list. He hadn't beat anybody yet. I mean, you were choosing him to be a star. Now Broner was too brave for his own good. He actually took on too many top fighters. Broner could have played the Gervonta role, the Canelo role, where you just pick and choose, because they were making him a star. But Broner was too hungry for his own good, as far as he actually wanted to be great. People got to see. That's the thing about AB, man. People are gonna criticize. Yeah, he was a bit fractured as far as some of the things he did, and he was taboo as far as you don't want to see guys do certain things or say certain things. I get all that, but bro, look back at Broner, the choices he made for opposition, and compare them to the oppositional choices these manufactured stars make today. Because they were trying to manufacture Broner back in the day, and he refused to be manufactured. He wanted to earn it. He wanted to be Floyd. Think about it. Floyd was not manufactured. Floyd earned it. He actually fought a lot of top fighters. People talk about late career. Oh, Floyd didn't fight Margarita. He didn't fight this. He didn't fight that. Bro, Floyd fought them all getting to that point. That's why he was a pay-per-view star by the time he got to that point. Do that. Now they just manufacture a pay-per-view star. They just decide this guy's a pay-per-view star. Based on what? Like Gervonta became a pay-per-view star based on what? You manufactured it. You created a demand for him. You manufactured him. He can fight. But he actually never took on somebody that you're like, whoa, he got over the hump. That's a pay-per-view star. Remember Floyd had to beat Oscar. Floyd was a super good fighter already. But before he beat Oscar, he wasn't a pay-per-view star. But Floyd had beaten Judah. He beat Corrales. He beat Castillo twice. He beat Gotti, who still was one of the more popular fighters, even though he may not have been on his level. So that was a smart move to do. And he came to Atlantic City to do it, if you remember correctly. So you got to give credit for that.
And fighting Gotti.
Fighting Gotti in Atlantic, yeah, Hall of Famer, right? But fighting Gotti in Atlantic City, was no joke, bro. I mean, you criticize Gotti for what you want. Going to Atlantic City in that atmosphere, it's no joke, bro. You know what I mean? I was at those fights.
It's like fighting
So
Tito in Puerto Rico.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So you get there, you get built there. You don't get manufactured, you get built there. They manufacture them. Even Canelo, honestly, was manufactured to a degree, but he was just so monstrous, and he was good, But I can remember hearing about Saul Alvarez before he was Canelo, and he was like 19 years old in terms of potential Floyd opponents. Before I knew who the freak this guy was, I'm like, who? Like, you're naming here the potential opponents, and they were all like bona fide names that I can remember. And then Saul Alvarez looking on HBO, and I'm like, who the hell was that? Who the F is that? You know what I mean? Like, and then of course he developed into what he developed, but they were trying to manufacture him early on too. And I'm not saying Canelo wasn't good. I'm not saying Gervonta wasn't good. I've already had this part of the conversation in this interview. But to become the star, there's a lot of good fighters. To become the star, that push. Why do certain guys get it and certain guys don't? When back in the day, you had to earn that push. And then you got it because of what you accomplished. Now it's like they look at them and they're like, we're gonna do that. You know what I mean? I do fighter interviews a lot, bro. I do fighter interviews a lot. And the people are gonna maybe take this as I'm hating or I'm being jealous, but I'm actually just being honest and being real. I do a lot of fighter interviews. Nobody has a personality. I remember the way I used to talk in fighter interviews. I was genuine. And I look at these guys and I'm like, I ask a question trying to seek out one of the kind of answers I used to give, or one of the, me, a Broner, for example, that crazy witty charisma. It's not there, bro. It's not there.
You
know what I
had
mean?
to
Like,
have that back then, though. You
but
had to have
you
that.
had to have it, but you couldn't teach it either. It was either there or it wasn't.
Right.
And nobody has it. So, like, Gervonta, I don't know. Like, again, Gervonta's very popular. He is very popular. And he's swaggy to a degree. But yeah, Gervonta talk. Did he give you any catchphrases? Did he give you any quotes that you're like, whoa, headline? Like Ali, for example, used to, Like, you don't get that, bro. You know what I mean? You don't get that. You don't see that.
But isn't
I
that
don't know,
more
man.
of an issue with the consumer, right? Like if you're Canelo, if you're Gervonta, like if you can, have a fight and still make and generate X amount of dollars because fans.
It is
A
with the
perfect
consumer.
example:
Ben, it
Mike
is with the
Tyson, Jake
consumer.
Paul.
Yeah, it is with the consumer. But it's because the weaponry is the technology. You can turn anything into a star now. You know what I mean? Because of all the technology that's out there. You can blast people into people's faces. So you can actually choose. If I want to make that sneaker into a star, if I've got the money behind it, the mechanism behind it, I can blast into people's faces constantly. It's like your news pieces, for example. Then why do certain news pieces get talked about on the news and some don't? For
Right.
what they want to do. And you have the weaponry, you have the money behind it, the news pieces behind it, and you get it on all the TVs, everybody's network channel. And all of a sudden, before you know it, everybody's talking about this because it's
Yeah.
all over TV, right? So promoting is the same thing today. You know what I mean? You can choose who you want to put out there. They're not that special though, dude. They're not like the back in the day where these guys were earning it. It's not like that. They're actually getting chosen, which is again why the whole great white hype thing aggravates me. You know what I mean? Because I was that white guy. I mean, I was actually told coming up the ladder, "Oh, Paul, you're so promotable." I'm talking about as an amateur, dude. Like, you're so promotable. You can fight. You're witty. You're good looking. You're this, that, and you just got to win a championship and forget about it. And then I got there and I was constantly fighting other people's stars, and I was a B side. You know what I mean? So don't tell me like it's this or this. People get chosen for certain reasons, whatever it is, and I'm not hating on that. But then go earn it too. Going back to the Floyd thing, right? Because we're both very familiar with Floyd. Lamont Roach is being fought against by Gervonta Davis, right? And again, I don't want to keep picking on Lamont because he's a good little fighter. He won a world championship, he earned it. Remember when Floyd Mayweather beat Genaro Hernandez for his first world championship? Okay. Lamont Roach beat Alex Garcia, okay, who had already been knocked out by Gervonta Davis, right? Okay. 2 months later, he beat him in October 1998. 2 months later, if you look at your box strike, 2 months later, and I'm not looking at box strike, I'm looking right at the screen. I remember this in my own head. December, he's in the ring 2 months later on HBO against who? Angel Manfredi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who was
Manfredi
was a beast at the time.
Yeah, Manfredi. Not only that, but he had resume wins, so you could sell him to you. He had resume wins. Lamont doesn't have a resume win yet. He beat Garcia for the title, but it's nobody special. Manfredi had beaten Arturo Gatti.
Yep.
He'd beaten Wilson Rodriguez, who had fought Arturo Gatti in a fight of the year.
Yep.
I think he may have he lost to a couple of good fighters already, but either win still you could sell him as the opponent. He had a resume. There's no resume here, bro. And you're fighting this guy on pay-per-view. It could be argued that Floyd, in the first title defense of his life, was fighting a better opponent than Gervonta Davis is at a point in his career where he's made so much money. They're talking about retirement, the kind of guys he's fighting. Am I talking in reality here, dude? Like, I feel like I gotta slap myself. Like, there's no way this is real, but it's real. But it's real. And then people wonder what's wrong with boxing. So I don't know, man. You know, it's one of those things. You know, I think there's solutions there. You know, I think Turkey could be a solution. I really believe ProBox TV could be a solution. I really believe we're more organized than the Saudis are. You know, because we don't have to play politics and we don't owe anybody anything. And not that the Saudis do, but I feel like sometimes the Saudis don't know any better and they choose to play politics. Here, bro, we're in our own lane, bro. You know what I mean? This is a different lane. Again, that Friday night fights, Tuesday night fights, Showbox. That's a different lane. You know, like you said, it's OTX. Red Owl is ProBox, but it's a good lane. I feel like it's the most fun lane because it's where most of the talent resides. Just like in life, there's the upper elite class, there's the middle class, and there's the lower class. Most of humanity resides in the middle class, right? Okay, although that's disappearing little by little, right? We're trying to keep that in boxing to where the middle class doesn't disappear. This middle class here, mid-range fights, is the most important one because it's a feeder to the upper class. It's a feeder to not everybody is going to be a world amateur champion, Olympic gold medalist. You know what I mean? Like some guys are going to come up the way I did and become world champions, or the way guys like Tim Bradley did or Chris Algieri did. You know, they're not all going to be your Antonio Tarvers and Roy Joneses, or Floyd Mayweather's, where they're Olympians and they got star and bona fide excellent athlete written all over them and super fighter written all over them. Some guys, you're going to have to, you know, they're going to have to pop up from, you know, the different levels where you may not have expected it, you know? And so you need that middle range network that's doing that, you know? And and I feel like that's where it's most important not to play politics. That's why I'm really happy that we don't play politics. But if at the higher level we could eliminate the politics, dude, I think this thing's got potential. Because some of the things Turki Alalshikh's done and the Saudis have done, some of them have been really putting on some stellar, amazing cards, some stellar matchups, and some of them are still coming up. You know what I mean? Some of these matches, you know, we're some of them are on the horizon. But when I criticize, it's not meant to be hating criticism. It's constructive criticism. I like what I see, and then there's other things you can do. You know what I mean? For example, I think the Saudis should talk to ProBox. I think we could easily be a feeder to that level. I think we could easily, you know, have this level right here where and the guys that really stellar show themselves at this level move on to that Saudi level. You know what I mean? And because then you're on the same wavelength. You got no politics. You're both trying to make the best matchups possible. A lot of upsets on our network. There's been a lot of upsets on Riyadh season cards, right? So then if you automatically create a feeder situation, dude, you've actually united at both levels. You know what I mean? And there's no politics. But everybody wants to have an ego. Everybody wants to play the game. Nobody wants to play the right game. Everybody wants to have an ego. Everybody wants to, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, whatever.
Well, I was gonna say,
go on and on.
I mean, can Turkey kind of fix some of those issues that you mentioned? And it was really because
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm hearing now, you know, what is he doing something with Dana White? Like Dana White's not the answer, dude. Everybody makes like, oh, because Dana was making the matchup for the UFC. No, bro. Dana had the guys signed within his own stable. He was making the guys within his own stable fight. That's it. Yeah, that's like top ranked fight, letting all top ranked fighters fight. Anybody who thinks about Dana White had the answers, like, has no idea what they're talking about because he was creating basically what is a promotion, and he made an exclusive deal with promotions, with his own promotion, and then the fighters had exclusive deals, and then everybody within his own promotion fights each other.
Right.
But the best fighter in another promotion can't fight the guy in the UFC because everything's exclusive over there.
Right.
So just because we have open borders in boxing to where, you know, promoters, fighters, the best fighter from one promoter could fight the best fighter from another promoter, even though the politics don't always allow it. People make like, oh, we're not making the best matchups. We're not doing this. No, bro. It's not that. It's just it's harder when you have an open market. I mean, Dana closed the market and then paid these guys a Happy Meal to make these fights. Like that's not the answer.
But I think that was the key, was the Happy Meal payments. I think,
And to a degree, yes.
and
To a degree, you got to keep them
Turkey's
hungry.
not doing that. Turkey's rolling out, steak
Well,
dinners
then
and
you know what,
lobster and shit.
Ben. Then you know what? You got a point. You got a point. But then you know what? Then all the money those fighters are generating for you shouldn't go in your pocket. It should go into retirement funds, 401k, just like every other job.
Yeah.
401ks, retirement pensions, life insurance, health insurance, all this stuff. If that's the case, I get it. I get it. You know what? Sometimes you got to keep them hungry a little bit. Let them be comfortable, even make comfortable money, but at the same time, yeah, $60 million is crazy. Okay. It's not all your money though. That guy's generating it. You know what I mean? So yeah, eat, of course, eat, but don't be a pig. Eat,
yeah, but they're not.
But then put it.
But they're not doing
then put
that.
it in. Then put it in these guys. Sorry,
no,
my phone just froze. Hold on. Put it in these guys' retirement plans. Create funds for all of them. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, or not even for those fighters in the main events. Do it for the league in general. Everybody signing the contract has a life insurance policy or a health insurance policy. All this other stuff. I think the UFC did have a health insurance policy, but what I'm saying, all the other stuff, 401ks, because the league is now generating a lot of money. So it's not just Conor McGregor, or it's not just Francis Ngannou. It's their main events may be generating more, but it's the league is generating more. So then create retirement funds for example, when the NFL, I don't know, I grew up in the era, or the NBA. I grew up in the era where like Michael Jordan was the best player in the NBA, right? So he got more money, of course, naturally, but because of guys like Jordan and Magic and Bird and everybody else that excelled the NBA to the league at a point where they may have had struggles before them, right? It was if what the rumor is, the NBA was struggling before Bird, Magic, and Jordan, right? It didn't go that where only Bird, Magic, and Jordan then ate. The NBA grew because of them, and then the whole NBA had a players association, retirement fund, pensions, all this other stuff. Now you're cooking with some grease. Sure, they were the pioneers, but now the league itself strengthens and also takes care of its own. You know what I mean? So you need to have something. But again, bro, I'm a high school dropout. It shouldn't be me coming up with these things, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be me coming, but these people are greedy, bro. That's the problem. And the fans are too stupid because they were like, oh, you're just going to make the matchups. I know, buddy. I know. They're going to make the matchups. Because on one side, the fighters thinking too much about the money now. Because I can remember back in the day, like, oh, fans don't care about you. They just want to see you fight. And then when you have nothing, I get it. There's a gray area. It's not all black and white. I get that at the end when you're not worthwhile anymore, you get tossed to the scrap heap. Okay, I get that. So you can't just go in one tough fight after another, get used up and then get thrown to the garbage. You can't do that. But at the same time, it's not only about money either, and it's become only about money, and that's a big problem, bro. Because it used to be about legacy, greatness, and all that other stuff. You know what? Now these fighters want you to tell them they're great and get offended when you call them out on their bullshit. You know, like a Canelo who wants to fight cab drivers constantly, and then when you call him out on it, he wants you to tell him he's one of the best Mexican fighters ever, and gets offended when you don't, and doesn't let you have a credential to go to his fights if you don't say that. You know what I mean? Right. That's not how it works, dude. That's not how it works. That's not how it's supposed to work. And the fact that it is working that way is a societal issue, and more so a microcosm within boxing. It's a problem within boxing.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel like that's still kind of going on. Like these, again, I'm all for fighters getting the bag, right? And I assume you are too. You're a former fighter, right?
They have to, but at the same time, again, it's not black and white. It's more gray. There's a balance in everything, moderation and everything. Fighters getting the bag is important because there's nothing after boxing. That's why if the league generates, then there needs to be a retirement pension. Okay. And I know boxing is not like other sports where there's no cutoff. Anybody can turn pro, and it's kind of moronic in that way, right? But then to qualify for the pension, you need to have been in the top 10 of the world sanctioning bodies for at least 5 years of your career. Something like that. That way there's a cutoff for the pension. There's a cutoff for the life insurance. There's a cutoff for all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And while you're there, you have all these insurances. While you're there, while you're competing at that level, you have all these insurances. But then when you retire, you get a pension if you hit that 5-year mark or something like that, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm just throwing out ideas.
Right.
What if they would stick? They would stick. It's not me that's got to do this though, bro. It's the guys who have the know-how, the money. I have the idea. Strategy and execution can't come without the funding and the money. The people with the money are all greedy, including the fighters. Getting too greedy now. You know what I mean? They're trying to sell themselves on a social media product without actually doing the work. You know what I mean? And it's creating the social media morons behind them all buying into it. You know what I mean? And nobody's making a demand for it to do better. Riyadh season has to be careful with oversaturating the market.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my issue. The networks in the West have also oversaturated the market. Because
Absolutely.
Gervonta Davis was fighting guys in retirement homes constantly. Okay, I mean,
But
not
he's generating. But
I'm
he's
sorry, I'm sorry,
generating.
I'm sorry. Not Gervonta Davis. I'm sorry. Devin Haney. Gervonta was on my mind because we were still talking about Gervonta for 10 minutes.
Right.
Devin Haney was not generating, but he was fighting guys in retirement homes coming up and getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you context, Jorge Linares got knocked out by Pablo Cano in one round in 2017. Haney fought him in 2019 in a main event. Okay, one round. I beat Pablo Cano in 2012. Okay, this guy knocked out Linares in one round in 17. That's how shot Linares was. In 19, Haney's main event against Linares, selling it as Linares, the former world champion, former pound for pound guy, all this other stuff. Did it again with Gamboa, or did it with there was three guys. I think he did it with Gamboa, he did it with Lawrence. There was another one he did it with. They were super old guys, like guys that just had a name. Like, they're basically like taking Muhammad Ali with Parkinson's and put him in the
was it Jojo Diaz maybe?
No, well, JoJo was another one, but he wasn't on the level of Linares and Gamboa in their prime. So either way, let's throw JoJo in there.
Right.
And it's clear he was robbing the bag. You know why? Clearly he was robbing the bag. For me, he didn't win the Lomachenko fight, okay? And nobody thinks he won the Lomachenko fight. If you think he won the Lomachenko fight, show me your betting slip when he was plus 500 going into round 12. Because if you thought he won the Lomachenko fight, that means you had him up in round 12. And at least some of you put that bet in. I'm going to say some, not all of you are gamblers, but there's got to be at least some of you that exist that when he was plus 500 going into round 12, if you really believe he won, that means going into round 12, you were throwing in that bet. I have not one person on this planet exists that did that bet because nobody thought he was winning that fight. Okay, then afterwards they fanboy it up again. That's that hip hop culture. That let me just root him because he's black and he's fighting the white guy. Okay, I'm gonna call you out on it because that's what those kind of people do. Not all black people. Again, don't try to put words in my mouth. But what I'm saying is to keep going back on it. What I'm saying is, you know, you realize Haney had oversaturated the bag. They had oversaturated the bag with Haney. When he wanted to come back from the Ryan Garcia fight and didn't want to take $1.75 million to fight Sandor Martin coming off a loss. Coming off a loss, bro. You're still the world champion coming off a loss that got taken off your record. But I don't want to call it a loss because it got taken off his record, and correctly, rightfully so. But when he turned down $1.75 million to fight Sandor Martin, coming off, even if it wasn't a loss, a bad look, a hit to his image. I'm like, what the F were you paying this guy, man? What the F? Because his resume is full of grandfathers. What the? And then he didn't even beat Lomachenko. He just got the gift. So what the F were you paying? I get the Ryan Garcia fight, but that's just supposed to be a one-off because it's Ryan Garcia and he generates. Like you said, he generates, right? We have with the YouTube generation. But for you to turn down $1.75 million coming off that performance to defend your world championship and instead drop it. $1.75 million is a lot of money. Maybe it's not to Devin Haney, but the reason it's not a lot of money to Devin Haney is because you got to ask yourself, what in the world were you paying that guy to fight guys in wheelchairs? What the heck was that? That's what I went to. Everybody else might think about this, and this. I go to the heart of the matter. I was like, okay, you go back to what we're saying. So is it just the Saudis saturating the market? Or is the West trying to manufacture stars on purpose, choosing who they want to manufacture and then letting them become stars? Because now, again, if you're trying to stage this, I'll go watch WWE, bro. I don't need to watch boxing where you sell it to me like it's real. But because at least WWE, nobody's telling you it's real. Nobody's telling you it's not staged. Sorry, it's real. It's just staged. Nobody's gonna tell you WWE is not staged. If you're gonna try to stage this on me, bro, I'll go watch WWE. I don't need to watch boxing where you're gonna tell me it's not staged and it's and you're trying to. I'm watching you trying to stage it in front of me. All right, that's my issue. You know what I mean? You have guys fighting in the same weight classes, staying all in their lanes. It was at lightweight. You had for a time you had Gervonta, Shakur was on the way up there lightweight. He wasn't quite there, and Haney. And they had no problem just going in individual lanes, not fighting each other. Then you're going to criticize Lomachenko, who's trying to fight everybody at the time. Now, because Lomachenko doesn't want to be the opponent you picked. But Gervonta, you see how Gervonta conveniently never mentioned Lomachenko's name ever, ever. Lomachenko's name was swirling around since 130-pound days. Okay, so Lomachenko was dominating 130. So and Gervonta was world champion at 130. Never even acknowledged it for the risk that it might pick up hype. Never even tweeted about him. Never mentioned his name. Just out of not wanting to risk that it might generate too much hype and might become too much of a demand. But when he fought Kambosos, what did Gervonta Davis do? Lomachenko fought Kambosos, what did Gervonta Davis do? Now you're tweeting about the 36, 37-year-old Lomachenko, right? Now you want to fight him. I see. Lomachenko's, in my opinion, was a little too smart for that. I think he's like, all right, after everything I did, trying to fight the best fighters possible, now you're going to try to use me as the opponent when I should have got this kind of guy years ago because he was around. Nah, you're not going to get that. I don't blame Lomachenko for that. Like Lomachenko chased the best fighters he could at 126 and 130, and even at 135. That guy's not a 135 pounder. That guy Lomachenko's not a 135 pounder. You look at him; he's still built like a featherweight. You know what I mean? I don't know if he can make featherweight, but he could definitely make 130. But he wasn't. He was clearly smaller than all the lightweights he fought. Teofimo, Haney, Luke Campbell, if you remember, they're all Linares, all way bigger than him. And Linares is actually an ex-featherweight too. I gotta say, Linares, he's big, but at least he's an ex-featherweight. The other guys, they're just big guys, man. But he wanted to fight Gervonta at 130. Gervonta never mentioned his name. So again, you're creating situations where you want to manufacture stars and then keep them away from each other. And then you got to let it build. And then when they're both 35, they fight each other. What do you get out of that? Do you even get a good fight out of that? Nobody. You want guys to fight when they're in their prime so that they're hungry. If they're both filthy rich, they're both filthy rich. Are they really going to fight that hard? You know what I mean? Is the fight even going to live up to it? I mean, even recently you had Crawford and Spence. Well, I give Crawford credit. He seems like a very hungry fighter, even as he gets older. He reminds me a lot of Floyd in that Floyd, as he got older, still stayed
That's
hungry
the
and turned into
exception.
fight,
That's the
to fight,
exception.
to fight for legacy. Because money just softens you up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to stay with that edge. I call it the edge. To have that edge about you. The Brits, they call it spite, right? That mean streak. It's very difficult to have it as you get older when you've made a lot of money. It's like you soften up, right? But I think Crawford and Spence got made at a point where Spence didn't have it no more. You know what I mean? Like it's like he didn't have that edge anymore. Like, he's getting guys was getting dropped by jabs and just like looking around.
I think mentally he still had it because he didn't have to fight Crawford. In fact, I think he was probably being told
but Ben,
not to fight Crawford.
by that point you're doing it because you're making $70 million, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're not gonna walk away in your mid-30s for $70 million. You know what I mean? At that point, you're gonna make it because okay, we marinated it. I'm not gonna not do it because now that all the money's up, we marinated it so we could do it at the moment where even if it's not good, it generates the most money.
Right.
Dude, Leonard Hearns lives up to it because they're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
They're at an age where they're still everything means it's not just about money. You know what I mean? You used to try to your goal used to be to try to become a star, and then if you could become a star, money comes in the process.
Yeah,
but
you had to be a star.
Your goal was
to
to
get
become
the
a
money.
champion. Yeah, but your goal was to become a championship star. Your goal was to become a champion in the sport and then develop into a star in the sport. And the money would come with it. You didn't think about the money. That was now, if you look at the mentality of these guys, they're trying to connive you into feeling like they're stars by using social media. And if they can convince you that they're stars, even if they're not, then they can get the bag of a star and get the treatment of a star. But they don't actually want to take the risks that the stars used to. They don't actually want to take the risks that the champions used to. And they all do it, bro. They all try to use the social media platform. Ryan Garcia's never even been a world champion. And he's probably the bigger star that there is. You know what I mean? Like within the sport right now. But they're all doing that. They're all doing it. They're all, they're in the same weight class, but they create different lanes for themselves and don't fight each other. And you know who's fighting each other? The freaking Soviets, bro. The Eastern guys. They fight each other. Boachuk fought Virgil Ortiz, and then he was gonna fight Madrimov, but Madrimov took the Virgil Ortiz fight. Madrimov fought Crawford, and now he's gonna fight Virgil Ortiz. Mm-hmm. These guys don't let anything marinate, bro, because they come from a culture you just fight and that's it, bro. But they're gonna get ruined because they're gonna consistently see Western fighters doing this crap. And they're going to be like, bro, why would I take constantly tough fights when these guys are robbing the bank fighting cab drivers? Eventually, if this keeps going, even the Eastern fighters are going to get ruined, bro. Right now, the Western fighters have this mentality and they've ruined it for the sport. But the Eastern, and not all the Western fighters, Western fighters, because somebody like Virgil Ortiz, you got to give him credit, right? But But the Eastern fighters, bro, and not just the Eastern Soviets, guys like in a way too chase everybody, right? So it's like you're gonna ruin it for them too. I'm telling you, and then you're gonna ruin the whole sport, because you're setting a bad precedence, setting a bad precedent. So you gotta make the fights at the right time. It's not just the names. It's not just putting names together. There's a timing for the fight, bro. The timing for the fight. It means so much. And I don't want to just keep using Leonard and Hearns because remember, Tito and Oscar also fought at a young age, and that was a total dud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But think about it. Oscar also at 26 years old that made so much money that maybe he softened up already.
I was about to say that Oscar had made up so much money. He was the one that made it the dud, not
Yeah.
Tito. Not Tito.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, but you have less risk of it being a dud if you make them in their prime, if you make them when they're young, when they're hungry, because they're. I mean, no, I can't say it for sure now because I feel like social media turns these even young kids into money hungry instead of chasing greatness. Even now, social media, bro, it's crazy, because you'll see, you'll see kids in grade school knowing what a Rolex is, bro. I didn't know what a Rolex was until I was,
Talking about get
in
that
high
bag.
school, like.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't say I'm too. A piece of me is too far disassociated from the generation at this point. Maybe I am, what do they call it, a boomer. But does that mean today's days is better? I don't think so, bro.
Yeah.
I lived the time in an era where, you know, being the man wasn't just about money. Being the
Yeah.
man was being the man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There was a lot to it. And
Being
it
a
was
man was
cool.
like
It
being
was
like Roy
very cool. Now
Jones.
it's just about money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
but
know.
that's the good thing about Turkey is that he is, he has so much money that, these outrageous demands that some of these, fighters have, he can, like, it doesn't matter. Like he can pay it. So we're gonna
But
be able
but
to.
but if you keep paying it, you're gonna oversaturate the market. Then
Right.
then then it's gonna come to the point where if you walk away, the sport is done. You know what I mean? Because then nobody's gonna fight each other. So that's a risk too. I wouldn't oversaturate the market. Like you didn't have to. And again, hate to count people's money, but and I'm happy that he got this money because obviously he's gonna need it after the result. But did you really have to pay Jared Anderson $2.7 million to fight Bacoli?
Well, yeah.
Did Jared Anderson really need $2.7 million to fight Bacoli? Like, and did that make him not really hungry?
Right.
Because Jared didn't fight that hungry. He just kind of just went there and then he went out like a in a whimper. But did he really need $2.7 million? He wasn't really proven. Why? Because ESPN told you he was good. He was good.
Right.
Again, manufactured. You're trying to manufacture stuff. You don't let it happen. You manufacture it. Yeah, ESPN went for a while telling us that Jared Anderson was the next star, the next American star, all this bullshit. But you know, what actually made him the next star? He didn't do a single thing that would actually tell you he was going to be the next star. He had a little bit of ability, but you could see the signs on the wall. I mean, he was crying with Roy Jones when Roy was telling him, the responsibility of being a star. Like, you can't handle that pressure. You're definitely not going to handle the pressure of a big goon beating the shit out of you in the ring. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. And Bacoli came in there like a goon and treated him like the Gooch from Different Strokes. Remember the Gooch in Different Strokes? Bacoli treated him like he was. Bacoli was the Gooch.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
date myself. All my old heads know what I'm talking about.
Bro, when you said that was the first thing I thought was like, oh my God, I'm so.
Jared fought like he saw the Gooch. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Nobody saw the Gooch.
Right.
Saw the Gooch.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, though. That fine line that Turkey's gonna have to walk with some. Because look, if these fights come to fruition that they're talking about, right? Like Ryan is, I mean, obviously he has a fight coming up with Rolly, and Devin's fighting Ramirez.
Even Ryan. Okay, what does he generate in Saudi? What does he generate? And obviously, you have money that you don't care what people generate because Saudi has no crowd, right? So,
Right.
so just because Ryan's popular on social media, you got to pay him that much.
Right.
You don't have to give. You don't have to do anything, dude. Ryan hasn't won a world championship. His value as a fighter doesn't match his value as a popular person. So until his value as a fighter matches, I don't think Turkey should ever have brought Ryan to this Middle East. I don't think go earn it, bro. You want to come to the Middle East and make this money? Earn it. Otherwise, stay in the West and live off your social media hype and generate the money over there. You can obviously generate. It's just all popular on social media.
But I think your
if you're
definition.
about the fight game, then be about the fight game. Don't be
Right.
about the groupie game.
Right. But that's what I was about to say. I think your definition of earning it is different than maybe Turkey's definition. Like to us, our definition of earning it is okay. Well, what are you generating? What kind of money are you
No,
generating?
because
And
Ryan generates, and in the West, Ryan generates. So it's not about that.
I mean,
What I'm saying is, I
well,
mean, I feel like he's a social media icon, right? I mean, he sells a lot of pay per view, right? What I mean,
I don't think he sold a lot with Devin though.
okay, all right. So I could be wrong, but
Tank's the only one.
he's marketed to us as the guy who sells a lot, right? Because
Right,
he's got a social media following.
right.
But what I'm saying is that only matters because the networks want to make a lot of money. So the networks will put you on because they know you're going to sell a lot of pay per view, and they're going to sell
Over here,
So
over
yeah,
here. Right.
and the buildings will want to put you in the building because you're going to sell sell out arenas, right? Over here.
But for Turkey,
For
he's
Turkey,
popular.
looking in the Middle East, and as a kid, there's 5 people there. Then it's not about that. It
Right.
should only be about the sporting element, and the sporting element is: are you good or are you not good? And Ryan, all right, decent, but he hasn't shown yet that he belongs on that level.
Mm.
Winning a fight where you fail a PED test doesn't mean shit. Okay, other than that, Ryan has not really accomplished much, including never winning a world championship. So if you're Turkey and you hold the bag the way you have it, and you're paying these guys the bag the way you have it, my opinion is, tell Ryan, thanks, but no thanks, buddy. We understand you're popular. We don't care about that popularity here. We want the best fighters in the world coming here. This stage right here is for the best fighters in the world. Develop it and then come over here. See if you can do it. No, bro, he's going by the popularity. So that's what I'm talking about. That was one of my criticism of Turki Alalshikh. He's taking selfies with everybody, and you're acting like a groupie. You're the man there. Be the man. You're above these people. You don't need to take no pictures with nobody. You know what I mean? Be the man and have that. What I'm saying is, what's the right words? I want to choose the right words.
Right.
Show that image of yourself. Have that image. Which is, you respect this. I'm the man. Okay, I know you're popular, I know you're good, but you want to come here? I hold a high standard. I hold a very high standard. It's not that, oh, you're very popular in the West and you're gonna be nice to me, so I'm gonna bring you over here. Nah, bro. Then you've lost all credibility.
Or I'm not gonna award you with a
Yeah,
fat payday
yeah,
coming off of
yeah,
PED fail.
yeah, exactly. Instead, it's not like that. And again, I only say that because politics is about money, and sometimes people will get very greedy, and the money lets them make decisions that they shouldn't, right? Or makes them make decisions that get ruin things. But with Turkey's situation, he got so much money, he doesn't have to let any money affect his decision. He can actually make a decision that's better for the sport. And he has the ability to do that because all the pieces are in place to do that. And that's why, again, when I say there's things I praise about the Riyadh season and things I criticize, the criticism is only constructive criticism. It is not meant to hate. It is meant to be for me to see the potential in it being even better because there's been a lot of good about it.
Right.
But again, I also work for a network and I work for a boss who's genuinely trying to make the sport better, loves the sport, and genuinely trying to make the sport better. And I'm not saying he's perfect either. Nobody's perfect. I don't claim perfection from anybody, but we're genuinely here in our little piece of the pie trying to make the sport better. But if at the highest level you have the same ability to make us better at the highest level, then you got to be about that. Don't behave like a groupie. Don't do that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to. Hopefully, when people see this, I hope they don't think you're hating because I don't like that's not the intention.
Again, I mean, there's everything's constructive. Even when it
Right.
comes to Davis, for example, I think Canelo's just done. I mean, I don't even care because I think Canelo's at that point where he's trying to actually sell the fraudulent bag, but he doesn't care. He's just trying to steal as much money as he can before he retires. But Gervonta still at a prime age. Gervonta is like, I want to see what's up with that. You know what I mean? I want to see like, yo, you're good. I want to see what happens if somebody can push you back a little bit. Are you still good? You know what I mean? Like, or are you gonna behave like Victor Ortiz when you get to that point? You know what I mean? But I gotta see you in with somebody good enough to show me that. You know what I mean? Because then I'll if you're good enough and you're mentally there too, dude, you make so many more genuine fans. That's what people respect. You know, that's where you really earn your respect. But I gotta see that kind of fight, and I haven't seen it yet. And so when I hear him talk about retirement, it's kind of frustrating. I'll leave off with this though, Ben. I work for a great network, and we get treated very well over here. Okay, and I hope that more people subscribe to the network because I think it's worthwhile for all boxing fans to do so because we bring a good product and I feel like we'll continue to do that and we'll be able to do that even more the more subscriptions we get. But I was criticized a lot when I didn't apologize at Showtime for holding my job, and I'll say this: I wouldn't be here had I stayed at Showtime, because this network started at the ground level when I left Showtime and I got picked up by here at the ground level. And now we are where we are here. We're doing 2 shows a month live. We're traveling the United States this year. We're not going to stay just in Florida. We have daily talk shows. And I feel like, again, we're growing and we make it worthwhile for everybody to subscribe. And I feel like everybody should if they're real boxing fans. It's a worldwide app. And some people at Show, not all the guys at Showtime, there's some guys, that were really good to me at Showtime that called me even afterwards, that basically offered, any help, after everything happened. And those guys were Jim Gray, Steve Farhood, um, Jim Gray, Steve Farhood, and Barry Tompkins. Really didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? It was like they hit me up and didn't have to do that. Even Gordon Hall actually hit me up. You know, so this doesn't include them. And I'm sure David Dinkins retires, so he doesn't care. And I'm sure Saving Espinosa will find a job anywhere else because he's a lawyer, and he can go get a job. I think he's at Amazon anyway, PBC. But for all the guys that talked behind my back, and I know who you are at that network, how does it feel to have no fucking job, jerk-offs? How does it feel to work 5 dates a year on Amazon, jerk-offs? You jerk-offs. I win, you jerk-offs. Because I wouldn't be here. Wow. I wouldn't be at ProBox if I'd held my ground. And then when Showtime goes off the air, I got to work for it. I might, not even deaf, I might get put on a network where I put 5 dates together last year. Wow. Get out of here. When people ask me if I'm not working in, why I'm not working in boxing, I'm working in boxing. Hope you guys can join that club at ProBox TV, because I think it makes it worthwhile. All boxing fans that have watched ProBox TV will tell you we're worth it.